بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم تسليما كثيرا مزيدا إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. This is our 10th class on the chapter of fasting from Zaad al-Mustaqni, and previously we took how Ramadan starts and ends. Then we took the condition of one who fasts, which is the matters that we took, like Muslim, mukallaf, and able, and a resident, and a woman who's not on her menstrual cycle or postnatal bleeding. Now the author here comes with a new statement: وَإِذَا قَامَتِ الْبَيِّنَةُ فِي أَثْنَاءِ النَّهَارِ وَجَبَ الْإِمْسَاكُ وَالْقَضَاءُ عَلَى كُلِّ مَنْ صَارَ فِي أَثْنَائِهِ أَهْلًا لِوُجُوبِهِ. If the start of Ramadan is proven to an individual, if it's confirmed and witnessed to an individual, that's what we mean when we say وَإِذَا قَامَتِ الْبَيِّنَةُ. If it's established that it's Ramadan. And how do we know Ramadan starts or ends? One of two ways that we already took. The moon was sighted, and or we complete the previous month 30 days. That's the only two ways that a month for a fiqh Islamic perspective starts and ends. He said if it's confirmed to someone that it's Ramadan during the day, he must abstain from eating, drinking, sexual intercourse, and all that which voids the fast for the remainder of the day. على كل من صار في أثنائه أهلا لوجوبه. على كل من صار في أثنائه أهلا لوجوبه. If he is among those who fasting is obligated upon. Who are those fasting is obligated upon? Those who we studied in the previous couple classes. Sane, Muslim, over the age of puberty. The matters that we discussed and studied in detail. You notice how this sentence, this rule that we're studying today, is based on what we took in the previous classes. It ties into each other, and that's why it's very well organized. He said if Ramadan is confirmed to you, how's Ramadan confirmed? We already spent some classes on that, the moon sighted, or we complete 30 days. Then the next sentence says, if you're among those who fasting is obligated upon. Who are those fasting is obligated upon? We took that in the previous two classes. Very well organized and structured. Although it may not appear so, but in reality, when you study the substance of fiqh, it's very well organized in structures. Our ulama took a lot of time to write this. The statement saying over here that we're trying to discuss is if you sleep not knowing it's Ramadan. You went to sleep, you don't know if the next day is Ramadan. You forgot, you didn't know, you didn't pray the Isha at the masjid. You go to the masjid the next day for Dhuhr, Asr, and they tell you, one of your friends tells you, it's Ramadan today. From that point on, the author is saying you must abstain from food, water, intercourse, and everything that voids your fast. It doesn't matter what part of the day. If you went to the masjid in Fajr, and after Fajr your friend told you, you know, today's Ramadan, you abstain there. If it was after Dhuhr, it was after Asr, you abstain for the remainder of the day from all that voids and nullifies a fast. Here, he says, if the proof has been established that Ramadan began, you do imsak, which means you abstain from eating, drinking, and intercourse. So the first opinion we have, is from the moment that it's been confirmed to you that this day is Ramadan, you abstain from eating, drinking, intercourse, and that which voids a fast. This is the opinion of the overwhelming majority of the ulama. Ibn Taymiyyah strongly advocated for this opinion. In fact, some ulama consider this opinion an ijma'. Ijma' is consensus, means agreed upon. Ibn Abd al-Barr rahimahullah said the only person I know who disagreed with this opinion is Ata rahimahullah. So if it's not an ijma', it's so close to an ijma'. That's the first opinion, and it is actually the correct opinion. The second opinion is what Ata rahimahullah said, and it was one of two opinions by Imam Ahmad. They said one is not obligated to abstain for the remainder of the day when he finds out if it's Ramadan. I could not find any fiqh books that had this opinion of the mother fiqh books who stated this opinion by other than Ata, and of course one of two opinions by Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. knowing nearly everything is disputed in fiqh, this is, if not an ijma', like I said, very close to an ijma'. What's the proof? عن سلمة بن الأكوع رضي الله عنه قال أمر النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم رجلا من أسلم أن أذن في الناس أن من كان أكل فليصم بقية يومه ومن لم يكن أكل فليصم فإن اليوم يوم عاشوراء. Salamat ibn al-Akwa said the Prophet ﷺ ordered a man from the tribe of Bani Aslam make an announcement. The announcement was what the Messenger ﷺ specifically told him to say, أن من كان أكل فليصم بقية يومه. This is a message for those who did not know that day was Ashura. He told his messenger, go announce that whoever has already eaten should fast from this day on. Fast from this point on. وَمَنْ لَمْ يَكُنْ أَكَلْ فَلْيَصُمْ فَإِنَّ الْيَوْمَ يَوْمُ عَاشُرَاء. Whoever has not eaten should continue his fast. Today's the day of Ashura. Everyone was ordered to abstain from eating and drinking, meaning fast for the rest of the day. If you ate, fast from now on. If you didn't eat, fast from now on. Why are we comparing Ashura to Ramadan in this fiqh issue? Because if you remember, all this ties into each other. If you remember, in the start of the classes, maybe I think it's the second class, we said that Ashura was wajib. Ashura was the replacement of Ramadan. Ashura was fard, wajib back then, like Ramadan is today. It was abrogated by Ramadan. However, the rule that those who didn't know it was Ashura that day when the messenger made the announcement, sallallahu alaihi wasallam told his messenger to make the announcement, applies to those who didn't know it's a Ramadan day by analogy and qiyas. You're in the same status as those who found out it was Ashura back in the days when it was wajib. You don't say, you know what, I have to make this day up, so I'm just going to continue eating and drinking for the rest of the day. You do what the messenger of the messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. You abstain, you fast from eating, drinking, and all that which voids fast. You fast for the remainder of the day when you found out that today is the day of Ramadan. That's pretty much a very clear issue. The next issue is slightly more disputed. You found out during the day, you went to the masjid, your friend told you, you know today's Ramadan, you didn't know. You abstain. You fast from that point on. The next issue, do you have to make that day up? The author here says, وَالْقَضَاءُ. And you abstain and you make it up. Now the first opinion, and that's the opinion of the Hanabila, Shafi'iyya, and it's what the author of this book chose when he said wal-qada, and it's the opinion of the vast majority of the ulama. They say that one must make that day up after Ramadan. He abstains and he makes that day up. Why? Simply put, it's a day of Ramadan that person in reality didn't fast. As a rule, you must have intention before Fajr. We spoke on that. You must have intention before Fajr. This person didn't have that intention. The fact that he abstained and fasted the rest of the day does not mean he does not make up that day after Ramadan. They went on to say that fasting has a physical aspect to it or characteristic, which means to abstain from that which voids the fast. It has a second characteristic, which is to have the intention before Fajr. That makes a lot of sense. It seems like it's strong, but look at the second opinion. The second opinion is, they said it's wajib to make it up. The second opinion is by Ibn Taymiyyah, a Malikiyya, in a small group of ulama. It's a minority opinion that whoever abstained for the remainder of the day and he didn't know it was Ramadan, he doesn't have to make up that day. What's their proof? Their proof is in the hadith of Ashura that I mentioned earlier. When the messenger ordered, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his messenger to make an announcement, to abstain from eating, drinking, and that which voids the fast for the remainder of the day. He didn't tell his messenger and also tell them, make up that day. The second proof, those who didn't know and they ate for a portion of the day not knowing it was Ramadan, it was by error and mistake. They ate, they possibly had intercourse with their spouses. This was before it was confirmed to them that it was a day of Ramadan. They didn't violate the month. They were merely ignorant that Ramadan has started. So they fall under what is exempted of forgetfulness and error. رَبَّنَا لَا تُؤَخِذْنَا إِن نَسِينَا وَأَخْطَأْنَا. Oh Allah, punish us not if we forget or fall into error. So they said this falls under what's exempted of error and forgetfulness. A third proof they used is qiyas, analogy. They compared this scenario to someone who mistakenly thought it was sundown at Maghrib, but it wasn't. He broke his fast, he thought it was sundown, but it wasn't. We mentioned a hadith on this before, and it's a hadith in Bukhari where they said we broke our fast during the lifetime of the Messenger ﷺ on a cloudy day, and then the sun appeared. They broke their fast because it was very cloudy, it got dark. They thought it was Maghrib, they thought it was sundown. It turns out it was just a cloud passing by. The sun resurfaced after the cloud went away. They broke their fast thinking that it was sundown during the Messenger ﷺ's life. Then they found out it was still not Maghrib. They were not ordered by the Messenger ﷺ to make up that day. They said someone who after the day of Ramadan starts does not know it's Ramadan, then he finds out, he abstains when he finds out for the rest of the day, he fasts for the rest of the day, is just like that scenario. He doesn't have to make it up. A fourth proof is, they say, which is really a response, they say this person didn't have the niyyah the night before. That's true, because he didn't know it was Ramadan. Ibn Taymiyyah responded to this. He said this person did not have the niyyah, the intention, because he didn't know it was Ramadan. What that person is ignorant of is not under his control. Therefore, they're exempted. Ibn Taymiyyah said, if someone knows the next day is Ramadan, and he delayed his niyyah until after Fajr, knowing the next day is Ramadan, it's not going to be accepted. But these people didn't know the next day is Ramadan. You can see, even though this second opinion is a minority opinion, they're really pretty much very strong in their proofs. A third opinion by Imam Ahmad, and notice the Hanbali Mazhab has three opinions on this situation, three conflicting opinions on the situation. Is that the third opinion is that they don't have to abstain nor make it up. The correct opinion may be in between the first and second opinion. The correct opinion is something one of my shuyukh, rahmatullah alayhi, taught me when he said that opinion, those opinions. He said, my heart leans to the second opinion. However, it's safer to make that day up. His heart leans to the second opinion that you really don't have to make it up. He said, but it's safer to make that up. But he said, I wouldn't go as far as say it's wajib to make it up like the first opinion. So it's really somewhere in between the first and second opinion. I actually believe that, and I encourage, and if someone was to ask me, I would say to make up that day. The next opinion, the author goes on to say, وَكَذَا حَائِضٌ وَنُفَسَاءُ طَهُرَتَا وَكَذَا حَائِضٌ وَنُفَسَاءُ طَهُرَتَا وَمُسَافِرٌ قَدِمَ مُفْطِرًا. The author goes on to say, and likewise, a woman on her menstrual cycle, or a woman in her postnatal bleeding, and a traveler who returned home while he had broken his fast. What's all this mean? He said, and likewise. And likewise. If a person found out that it was Ramadan during the day, we already said he abstains for the rest of the day. He fasts for the rest of the day. We said it's a near ijma' on that. He's saying now, and likewise, if a woman is on her menstrual cycle, becomes pure during the day, she must abstain for the rest of the day. She must fast for the rest of the day. If a woman on her postnatal bleeding becomes pure during that day, she abstains for the rest of the day, of that Ramadan day. If a traveler, he traveled, he went out, he came back, he decided to break his fast because he's exempted, he was on his journey. He returned home before sunset in the fasting hours of the day. He has to abstain for the rest of the day when he returns home. First of all, the author didn't include these three categories: women on her menstrual cycle, women in her postnatal bleeding, and a traveler. He didn't include these in the first sentence. He separated them from the previous sentence, from those who found out during the day of Ramadan that today is the day of Ramadan. And he separated between those two sentences. He says, likewise, وَكَذَا حَائِضٌ وَنُفَسَاءُ. Why didn't he include them all together in one sentence? He could have, it could have been more eloquent to do so. He separated them with the word وَكَذَا. Because the answer to that is because these matters are greatly disputed. There's a trend in many of the fiqh books where they usually mention issues that have an ijma', consensus on them first, or a close to an ijma', like an overwhelming majority of ulama support that opinion, or a near ijma'. Then they follow that with issues that may be widely disputed by saying, and likewise, وَكَذَا. They tag them on with وَكَذَا. The man or woman who found out during the day that it's Ramadan must abstain fast for the rest of the day. That's near ijma'. We stated Ibn Abd al-Barr said the only one I know of who disagreed with this was Ata. That's as close to an ijma' as you can get. But then, a woman on her menstrual cycle who becomes pure and clean that day, or a traveler, or a woman on her post-natal bleeding days, these three issues that the author mentions here, after he mentions وَكَذَا and likewise, they're widely disputed, unlike the first matter. So the author separated them from the first matter by the sentence وَكَذَا and likewise. He separated those three conditions from one who finds out during the day that it's Ramadan by saying وَكَذَا, because these three issues are widely disputed. Now let's talk about these three categories, three issues. A woman on her menstrual cycle, a woman in her after her postnatal bleeding, and a traveler who returns home. A woman on her menstrual cycle or postnatal bleeding becomes pure at dhuhr. Dhuhr, she's finished. The bleeding is done, and she takes a shower, she's clean. She has to make up that day and all days missed, while she was on her days of her menstrual cycle or postnatal bleeding. There is no question that they have to make up the missed days. وَمَنْ كَانَ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِّنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرَ. Whoever's ill and on a journey, the same number of days which he didn't observe in Siyam, he must make up. That's for a traveler. And as for a woman who's ha'id or nufasa, that's by ijma' in the hadith in Sahih Muslim. كُنَّا نُؤْمَرُ بِقَضَاءِ الصَّوْمِ وَلَا نُؤْمَرُ بِقَضَاءِ الصَّلَاةِ. Aisha said, we were commanded to not make up the prayer, but we were commanded to make up the fasting. The question is, do these categories, we know they have to make it up. Do these categories that I mentioned have to abstain the day that they became clean and pure or the day that traveler returned home? That's the issue at hand. The issue of them making that day up, that's ijma'. A traveler or woman on a menstrual cycle or postnatal, they have to make up those days. Now the first opinion, according to Abu Hanifa, in one of two opinions by Imam Ahmad, chosen by the author of this book, and the madhab of the Malikiya, is a woman on her menstrual cycle or postnatal bleeding day, when she becomes pure of that, she has to fast for the remainder of that day in honor of that day, since she could not do an entire wajib, which is fast the entire day. She can do a partial wajib by fasting the remainder of the day when she is pure. They also said the woman or traveler who were exempted from fasting that day for an excuse, the excuse is no longer there, so they must abstain. That's the rationale behind that. The second opinion is one of two opinions by Imam Malik and one of two opinions by Imam Ahmad. And it's the opinion of Imam Shafi'i, that a woman does not need to fast or abstain for the remainder of that day when she becomes pure. As long as, of course, what we mentioned before, she doesn't do it publicly. This opinion said, first of all, they were permitted to eat in the start of the day, so they can eat and continue eating for the rest of the day. Also, they said there's no benefit in them abstaining for the rest of the day, fasting the rest of the day. Someone who didn't know it was Ramadan, and they found out, and he fasted, some ulama say, when he fasts the rest of the day, he doesn't need to make it up. We said, it's safer to make it up. Here, a woman on her menstrual cycle or postnatal bleeding, or a traveler who returned home, there's no dispute that says they don't make it up. It's by ijma' that they must make it up. So the ulama here are saying there's no benefit in them fasting the rest of the day. The fact that she needs to make up that day regardless, and the fact that the traveler returned home needs to make up that day regardless, makes fasting the remainder of the day futile and useless. And a third, and a strong proof, is what is narrated in Ibn Abi Shaybah, that Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anh said, "Man akala awwal al-nahar, falyakul akhirah." Ibn Mas'ud said, whoever eats in the start of the day, like in scenarios that we mentioned, then he can eat throughout the day, to the end of the day. And this is the correct opinion. A woman who's on her menstrual cycle or postnatal bleeding becomes pure during that day, at Dhuhr, Asr, or right before Maghrib, she does not have to abstain or fast for the rest of the day. A traveler who returns during the fasting hours to his home and family, and he decided on his journey to break his fast, and now that he's home, he doesn't have to abstain for the rest of the day. Of course, we stated before that this should be done in secrecy, in respect to the Ramadan and to Muslims, and also to avoid being accused. So, for example, a scenario that I can give you: if a husband returns from a journey, he broke his fast on. He decided to break his fast because he is excused. And a wife at home that day became tahira, pure from her menstrual cycle. They can have sexual intercourse that day of Ramadan. It's halal and there's no kaffara. I read a rule some fuqaha stated, which I very much like on this matter. And they said, whoever breaks their fast for any legitimate reason, then that reason happens to go away during the hours of fasting, they don't have to abstain the remainder of that day after the reason they were allowed to break their fast for goes away. Whoever breaks his fast for any legitimate Islamic fiqh reason, then that reason happens to go away during the day, then they don't have to abstain the rest of the day. They don't have to fast the rest of the day. A last point, in addition to a woman on her menstrual cycle, and a woman in her postnatal bleeding, and a traveler that the author gave, there's other similar reasons that the author did not mention. For example, a nursing mother breaks her fast so she can nurse her infant, and care of her infant. She's excused. Her infant happens to die that day. She broke her fast to nurse him. The infant, her son, happens to die that day. She doesn't have to abstain for the rest of that day. Another scenario, the reason is whoever breaks his fast for a legitimate reason, then that reason goes away during that day. They don't have to abstain for the rest of the day. The rule that I gave you. Another scenario, more practical, and the author, I'm not sure why he didn't mention it. Person who's ill. He broke his fast because he's ill. He's exempted. After Asr, he's as healthy as can be. The fever or whatever he had went away. He doesn't have to abstain for the rest of the day. Why? We told you. Whoever breaks his fast for a legitimate reason, then that reason goes away during the day. Now he's cured. He doesn't have to abstain. And we mentioned to you the statement that Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anh stated in Musannaf ibn Abi Shayba. So that's the opinion on this matter. جزاكم الله خيرا وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.